So I know why you're all here today. Let me tell you why I'm here. I like to say that sports didn't just change my life, they saved my life. And that sounds a little dramatic, but it's true. Sports gave me a purpose and self-confidence right at the exact time in my life when I needed it. And it even gave me my first job. So why I'm here is not complicated. It's very simple because you don't rise and succeed without a great deal of gratitude and without wanting to bring as many people with you as possible and without wanting to give back. And through workshops like this, PCA is poised to positively influence thousands of youth across this nation, and I want to be part of that. And I hope you do too. So let's get some introductions going here. Can you just say your name and sport and maybe one challenge that you're facing, either you or your team? Want to start with you?
Sure. My name is Kelly, and I coach youth lacrosse this season. I'm coaching third and fourth graders. And my biggest challenge is this is the first time I'm coaching kids that have no idea how to play the sport. I've only ever coached at the college level and the high school level, so this is a new challenge for me, trying to coach kids that can't even catch a ball.
Great, thank you. And next?
I'm Ruben Nieves. I'm coaching boys 6 and under, and the biggest challenge for me is just keeping them on task, paying attention, and keeping them busy and occupied. Short attention span.
Nice. And last?
My name is Dan Ourian. I am a youth basketball coach for multiple levels, and I'd say one of the biggest challenges now is sort of the team culture of how the teammates relate to each other, how they speak to each other negatively.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'd like to ask everyone now to just quickly just stand up, just right where you are. You don't have to move anywhere. Just go ahead and stand up. Thank you. Now, if this is your first year coaching, you've never coached before, instead of raising your hand, go ahead and have a seat as a visual for me. Oh, great. Well, thank you. Thank you for starting your season off right with us. Now, if you've been coaching for 2 years or more, why don't you remain standing? So if you've been coaching for less than 2 years, instead of raising your hand, go ahead and have a seat. And if you've been coaching for 5 years or more, remain standing. 10 years? 20 years? Wow, okay. How long have you been coaching?
17 years.
Nice. And how long have you been coaching?
24 years.
Yeah. Well, it is a pleasure to be here, and I want to thank you all sincerely for your lifelong commitment to coaching, because coaching is a commitment, and it's not a matter of whether we are going to have an impact on these young athletes. It's a question of what kind of impact are we going to have. So we're going to concentrate on 3 basic principles: Elm Tree of Mastery, filling the emotional tank, and honoring the game. I have a couple videos I want to show you first, and then we're going to start talking about the first principle. So we're going to show the 2 clips back to back. Okay. And on the conclusion of the second clip, so what did you think about those? Anyone?
Different.
I don't remember the clips by heart.
Yeah, very different. What makes them different?
I'd rather play for the second one.
Yeah. Why would you rather play for the second one?
Because win the game, he's still going to be on our side. He's still going to be happy with how we played.
Yeah. And what do you think the 2...
Did she freeze?
I think so.
Yeah, just there we go.
Are they totally different? No similarities? So
Repeat that again, Jeannie, because I think you froze for a minute. So can you repeat that again?
okay, sure. Did you see any similarities between the two? Do you think they have anything in common?
They're both very intense.
Yeah, it sounds like they both love what they're doing, right? And what are the differences? Let's see if we can pull out some of the differences between the two.
Well, the first coach said that it ain't how you play the game, whereas the second coach, that seemed to be what he was emphasizing, is how we play today when we take the field.
Right, and the emphasis for the first coach, what do you think his emphasis was?
Winning.
Winning.
Winning the scoreboard. So let's take a look at the Elm Tree of Mastery, the difference between a scoreboard definition and a mastery definition. So you saw an example of a coach that was demonstrating a scoreboard definition and an example of a coach who was a mastery definition coach. So let's take a look at the differences here. A scoreboard definition is focused on results, on winning, on putting the scores up on the scoreboard. Mastery definition, effort. Are you giving a consistent maximum effort every time you come to practice, every time you get into the game? For the scoreboard definition, a focus on comparison with others, right? You've all seen this. And for a mastery definition, the focus is on learning, having a coachable spirit, learning from everything around you. You know, when I was on my first team in high school, there was a girl who came in. She had absolutely no experience whatsoever. She had never taken the sport developmentally. She had never been on a team before. She walked in and she was an open book and a total sponge. She went from knowing nothing to winning every single gold medal in her category at the end of that season. And that's how powerful it can be to concentrate on learning. What about mistakes? On the scoreboard definition, mistakes are not okay. Why? If you make a mistake, what happens? It costs you
The game.
It costs you the game. It costs you points. Can't win that way, right? In the mastery definition, mistakes are okay because we need to make mistakes in order to learn, right?
Not always, but yeah.
Well, that's true. Not always, but a majority of the time, if we're going to learn something, we're going to make some mistakes along the way. And if we do make mistakes along the way to learning whatever skill we're learning, it's okay. If it's okay, there's less anxiety, and the players are able to get through that process better. They're able to enjoy the sport more. And let's take a look. The research shows, what do you think the research is going to show? If you have an environment where your energy is on things that you can control, your effort, how you learn, that mistakes are okay and you're able to bounce back from them. It's not that you make mistakes, it's how you respond to those mistakes, right? So in a climate like this, where do you think your anxiety goes? Up or down?
Down.
Yes, down.
Down.
And self-confidence? Anxiety goes down, self-confidence goes
Up.
yes.
Up.
Yes, absolutely. So in this environment, it gives the players a feeling of
Confidence.
Confident.
yes, confidence and self-confidence is a part of feeling in control of the things that you can learn, your effort, and bouncing back from your mistakes. And when you have a feeling of control, we find that athletes can work harder and stick to it longer. This is from years, over 20 years of research. This is not something that is no longer a guess. This is a given. If players have a feeling of control, higher self-confidence, they will work harder and they will stick to it longer. So let's look at a scenario here. Jesse hangs his head every... So what can you do? I'd like to ask you to go ahead and partner up with someone nearby you in 2s or 3s and just talk for a couple minutes about the scenario and what you would do, and we're going to come back and share that. Okay, can you share with me what you guys were talking about? Share what you would do in this scenario with Jesse.
I would try to keep Jesse in the game and just keep him motivated from the sidelines, like clapping for him and just telling him, keep going, it's okay, get back, you know, things like that. And if he didn't respond to that, then I'd have to take him out because he's not playing his position like he should be. So I'd have to take him out and talk to him about it.
Right. And this group over here?
Yeah, also, just don't worry about it. You got to keep going, keep playing. Just keep your head up.
Great. And all of these are to get his head back in the game, right? So we're going to talk about one of the most powerful tools in the Elm Tree Kit, mistake rituals. And if you go to page 23, it'll outline a lot of great information about mistake rituals, and actually starting on page 21 there is a whole host of tools that go along with the Elm Tree of Mastery that I hope you will take a few minutes to look at after, because these are yours to take home. So take them with you and review that at your leisure. But right now we're going to focus on a mistake ritual. So this is a physical gesture, a reminder that the mistake happened, it's done, you flush it, brush it off, wipe it off, it's done, and you move forward as if you never made it in the first place. Get your head back in the game, get back on defense. So this has been proven to be very successful, especially with youth athletes, but has also been successful all the way up to championship, college, and even in professional sports. So, does anyone here currently use a mistake ritual?
I do, yep.
Yeah, I never knew it to be a ritual. I just, I try to get my players to focus on moving on to the next play. I always try to say next play, next play, next play.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Great, great. And this one just takes it a step further by linking that together with a gesture, which makes it more psychologically powerful. And Kelly, which one do you use?
I have 8- and 9-year-old girls, so I use Taylor Swift's Shake It Off, and we shake it off. And that seems to make them laugh and giggle, and it works.
I love it. I love it. Thanks for sharing. And you can even get your athletes in on this too. Ask them which one they would like to use. Get them involved and have them figure out a gesture that would work for them. So that's awesome. Timely and interactive. So thank you for your attention. And that's the last one for...
Yeah. Nice job. That was good. Even 5 minutes to spare. So your pace is you're fine. Your pace is good. That's great. Thank you, Jeannie.
Thank you.
I think it's so neat how you're able to do this without seeing us. I'm a very visual person. So you do it well. You facilitate well without seeing your audience. I'm thinking maybe my next workshop I'll just be blindfolded so I can't see my audience, and I'll probably deliver a heck of a workshop that way. Dan, would you like to give Jeannie some feedback on what you thought?
I thought, the first thing was really knowing the information code. Like, I feel like she really has a great sense and was able to riff off of what we were saying and how it goes right back to the book and the content. So I thought that was really great.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you.
Yeah, that was strong. Ruben, would you like to give Jeannie some feedback?
Yeah. So Jeannie, I think this is, now you've done all 3 principles in your practice sessions. Is that right?
Yes.
I think that's awesome that each time you did a different section and different principle and challenged yourself. I really appreciate that. One idea or one question for you. When you talk about a scoreboard definition and a mastery definition, what is it a definition of? Scoreboard definition of what?
Right, definition of winning. Okay.
Mm-hmm. Okay, yeah. Or of winning or success. And I think it helps people absorb and follow you if you, even though the slide doesn't say that, right? The slide doesn't say it. So we as a trainer have to say, to understand the principle of ELM, we're going to compare a scoreboard definition of winning with a mastery. Yeah, that would be my only suggestion.
Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I'll incorporate that.
I just have a couple things that I really liked and a few suggestions. I like your introduction. I think you put it in the wrong order, though. I would like it. I think your order. I think you really should. You do such a nice job at having people introduce themselves. I love the idea of introducing yourself and saying what one of your biggest challenges are. I like the idea that you had a standing and sitting. Like you did that right off the bat, and then you did a nice job talking about. I didn't write down everything you said, but you said something about like, look at all this experience, look at all the years of coaching that we have. I want to thank you, coaches, for what you've done. Then I would go into, I had some incredible coaches too, and the reason that I'm here is because sports actually, what I think you said, saved my life. So rather than telling us that up front and then going through the activity, I would almost do the activity first and then lead into that. It's a very strong statement to say that sports saved your life. So I don't know if you're planning on putting that in later, but if you're going to say that in the beginning, I would almost like to know how. Not in detail, but I think when you say it's like, wow, it saved her life, like what was going on?
Yeah.
And we have a few trainers that have literally said, like one of our trainers, found out she had a serious disease, and the way that she was able to fight through this disease was because of the life lessons she learned in sports, to always try to get better and always try to improve. So, that's an example of like saving your life. Someone else said, she dropped out of high school, and it wasn't until a coach took her under his wing and said, no, we want to get you a college education. It's not all about the sport. And that literally, brought her out of the inner city and literally saved her life. So I think, just a little blurb of detail would really help me connect with you a little bit more.
Okay.
So that's my suggestion. I like the way you did the videos back to back, but when you're finished with the videos back to back, I think you need a real strong question. Like instead of just saying, what did you think? That was your question that you said, and we all kind of just paused for a minute. Like Ruben and Dan and I were like, where's she going here? Like, what does she want? I think you just need a real specific question. And you asked them after that, after you said, what do you think about those two? Then you did say, what are some similarities you see between the two coaches? What are some differences? Those are strong, direct questions. I'm just afraid if you say, what would you see? What did you think? Everyone will be like, I don't know. I'm not really sure. So just be direct with your questions.
Kelly, I'm going to jump in there. Kelly, I'm going to jump in there.
We can't see you, Ruben. Do you know that we can't see you?
Yep.
Okay,
I don't
just
want I don't want you to see me eating my lunch and chewing in front of you. Jeannie, to follow up on what Kelly was saying, one way to do that is I'm going to show you 2 video clips, 2 different coaches. I want you, as you watch, I want you to think how the 2 are similar and how they're different, because I'm going to ask you about that afterwards. Here they are.
That's great.
And you play them.
Nice.
And then immediately after you play, you go, let's start with the similarities. How are they similar? Okay, so that's a way to implement what Kelly's talking about.
Nice. Yeah.
Yep.
Thank you. That's great.
Again, I think your story was great about this high school player that had no experience, and she was an open book and she was a sponge. You might even want to throw in the term she had a very a growth mindset, because that's one of the things that we talk about. You know, bring in that term. That's a great term to use when you're talking about mastery. So you know, you can bring in that. And again, I liked the way you had us, you know, partner up and talk. You do a really nice job at appreciating the answers that the audience gives. I think that's something that a lot of trainers overlook. Sometimes you'll ask a question and you'll hear an answer and you go, okay, someone else. You know, so it's nice to be appreciated for your answer and to laugh and to have a sense of humor. My only tips that I would give you is try to, and this is so minor, but it's important, is to try to vary the pace of your voice a little bit. Okay. You know, you do a very nice job communicating. You're very articulate, and I would almost like shake it up a little bit every once in a while, like say something a little bit louder, or a little bit quieter, or model a coach that's yelling at a kid, or just do something just to kind of change it up a little bit and keep us on our toes, rather than the same cadence to your voice. I think that would help keep things a little bit more interesting. And maybe do like a partner share a little bit earlier with Elm Tree of Mastery. Not necessarily has to be like a big partner share, but instead of just asking like, well, what do you think? Well, what do you think? Well, what do you think, Dan? Well, what do you think, Ruben? In a small group, that's fine, but when you have a group of 30 or 40 coaches, you're going to lose a lot of people in the room if you don't keep them engaged. So, you know, why don't you turn around, high five the person behind you, and share with them how you would take a skill, like whatever the skill is in your sport you're trying to teach, how would you focus on mastery of that skill, not just the outcome? We all want them to hit the ball with the baseball bat. How do you get them to do, you know, something like that to get them really thinking early on about their specific sport so that every single coach in the room is involved. Nice. So those would be my only two suggestions.
Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Did you have anything else, Ruben, for Jeanne?
Nope.
Okay. All right, great. All right, Dan, you are up. I think it's great you guys are both from the Bay Area, too. This is nice how this worked out.
Yeah. Two very different parts of the Bay, but it's a big place. But yeah, Ruben too, right?
Well, no, I actually
you're out here.
down near Fresno. I'm in Clovis, California.
Oh, right, that's right.
I spend a decent amount of time in the Bay Area. Yeah.
Great. All right. Well, I'm ready to go.
Okay.
So here we go.
What are you going to be doing today?
I'm going to go with honoring the game.
Okay, cool. All right, well, you've just been introduced. Thank you, Dan, for coming to the workshop. Let's welcome Dan. Go ahead.
Thank you. Please. No applause. Thank you. I want to welcome you all to Positive Coaching Alliance, and thank you for taking the time out of your schedules to be here. It shows you're really interested in working on your craft and you're passionate about what you do. And that's really important. You know, youth sports is a very powerful tool. It can be a very positive experience for kids and something that really impacts them. You know, on the flip side of that, it can also be something that goes disastrously bad and be a very bad experience. One of the things we want to think about is that most kids are not going to be professionals. Most kids are going to go, probably won't even play college sports. Most of the kids that we coach in youth sports, they're out there to have a great time. They're out there to gain knowledge of the sport, gain the camaraderie of their teammates. And you know, we have the opportunity as coaches to make them better as players. But the real principle that we want to get across here is that it's not really just about making them better athletes. We really want to focus on making them better people. And that's the goal of tonight and what we're trying to get across as a message, a mission of PCA. So real quick, I'm going to introduce myself, but first I want to just quickly go around and everyone just say your name, where you're from, and how about what sports you coach. Jeanne, can we start with you?
Sure. My name is Jeanne Perry. I'm here from the San Francisco Bay Area, and I'm a strength and conditioning coach.
Great. Okay, Kelly?
My name's Kelly Kratz. I live about an hour west of Philadelphia, and I coach youth lacrosse right now.
Great. And Ruben?
Ruben Nieves, Clovis, California, and I'm a Little League baseball coach.
All right, great. Well, as you guys heard briefly, my name is Dan Ourian. I am a basketball coach, and just want to give you a little bit of background on me. I was a 9-year-old kid from Long Island when my mother sat me in front of the TV and I watched the New York Knicks and saw Patrick Ewing at the foul line sweating like buckets of sweat. And from that moment on, I was really hooked on the game. I stayed playing basketball my whole life. Tried to walk on to my Division III Wesleyan University team and did so unsuccessfully. So went on to manage at that level, and from the moment I graduated, I started coaching. I've been really, really lucky to allow coaching to take me to great places. I spent 2 years in the Middle East working with an organization called Peace Players International, which uses the game of basketball to bring kids together in conflict regions. So we were working with Jewish Israelis and Arab Israelis, and basketball was the medium for trying to resolve some conflict there. Coming back from there, I got a chance to work with my favorite team, the New York Knicks. I ran camps and clinics for them, and I was an athletic director at the 92nd Street Y. And just recently relocated to the Bay Area, and I've been studying sports psychology as a master's student at JFK University. And when I came across Positive Coaching Alliance and put in my application and read the book that we all got today, I really, really fell in love with the message and the mission of PCA. It's something that immediately spoke to what I was learning as a sports psychology student. There was great overlap. And here I was saying to myself, everything I'm reading is backed up by the science that we're learning. And so I felt this is a great opportunity for me to join up and be a part of this great mission. So I'm really excited to be here. I hope you all are. And here we go. Now I'm going to jump ahead to a principle a little later in the workshop, and it's called Honoring the Game. So to start this off, I just want to start with a picture here. If everyone can see this picture, does anyone have any idea of what might be pictured?
It looks like two girls from the opposite team are carrying their opponent.
Right. So any thoughts on what could be going on here? Any guesses? You probably haven't seen this. I doubt anyone here was actually at that particular softball game, but any guesses what might be going on?
She's probably injured, and they're carrying her off the field, is what I would guess.
Right. That's a great guess, Ruben. Well, I'm going to show you guys a little video here, and here you go. So I will now show the video. I'm not going to show you folks the video. Does anyone want to share some thoughts about what you just saw? Any emotions? Any feelings? Anyone choked up?
Inspiring.
I'm choked up.
Yeah.
I think it's awesome. I think it's awesome.
Yeah. Pretty awesome video, and we make a point to show that in every workshop that we do because we find it to be an amazing example of sportsmanship. And at Positive Coaching Alliance, we have taken the term sportsmanship and given it a new sort of definition. Honoring the game is a more robust definition of sportsmanship, and we've used an acronym called ROOTS, and it's 5 letters, and it stands for different areas within honoring the game. Okay, so you guys see the photos here for each of the letters. Does anyone want to give me a letter? Any guesses of what they may stand for? I'm guessing you can get 1 or 2. So real quick, anyone want to shout one out?
That one looks like it's for officials. O for officials.
The stripes. Yep, absolutely right. Officials.
I think teammates or team might be one.
T is for teammates. Very good. Very good. Anyone else have one?
R for respect.
Close. And all of these have to do with respect, so that's good, Ruben. And R is for rules, and we're going to get to that right now. But they all actually have to do with respect. Respect for the rules. The other O is for opponents. O for officials, teammates, and self. So we want to look for ways that we can respect each of these subcategories within honoring the game. So let's start with the rules. a lot of times there are ways you can maybe ever, as a player, you ever grab a jersey, or when a ref wasn't looking, you give someone a forearm shiver. There's probably been examples from your own playing career where you have, or instances where you've seen a player of yours do it. And the question is, did you call your player out on it? So my question to you is, if we could just raise your hand if you have an example for not explicitly cheating or breaking the rules, but maybe bending the rules and the spirit of the rules. Does anyone have an example of bending the spirit of the rule?
I've seen a lot of ball hitting off the feet in field hockey, and that's illegal. And I've seen it happen a lot without the ref noticing.
Mm-hmm. So Kelly, if you see that as a coach, what is your response to that? Do you address it with your players?
I do. I mean, if I see that they did it, especially in front of the goal, it's kind of a double-edged sword, because you don't want them to be yelling at the other player. I have young kids, so it's hard for them to look at the other players and not say, "Oh, it hit her foot," because that's kind of arguing with the ref. You want to let the ref call the game, but it is something that I do encourage them to point out if they've made the mistake themselves. It's okay to stop, to say, it hit my foot. Sorry.
Mm-hmm. That's great. That's really great. Anyone else with an example about rule bending?
I don't know if this qualifies as bending the rules, but in baseball, catchers are taught to quote unquote frame the pitch, so that if it's just outside of the strike zone, when they catch it, they subtly move their glove into the strike zone to try to influence the umpire's call.
Right. Now, I'm not a huge baseball guy, but that to me seems like more of a skill, a tactic in order to get the call you want. Any baseball people out here who can tell me if that's really sort of illegal or bending the spirit of the rules?
So I'll be a different coach and say, actually, it is legal, and the umpire just has to call it the way he sees it. But you're allowed to move your glove when you catch the ball.
Right. Okay. So that seems like almost something you would, if not encourage, you would notice in a player as something tactically that they're doing in order to gain the advantage. So we want to draw the distinction between that and doing something unfair. And a lot of times it's unfair. And let's say another team has a 14-year-old player at a 13 and under tournament. And you may notice that. Now, how do you respond as a coach? Do you try to pull in an older player? I think the key here is to say, well, whatever they're doing, we're going to stay within the spirit and the letter of the rules. And so that's really important. So moving on, let's go on to opponents, okay? Positive Coaching Alliance has a sense that your opponent is a gift. And really we should be very grateful for the opponent. And, my thing is, let's thank the opponent, okay? We always shake hands after the game. What I try to tell my players is, look the guy in the eye and shake five, be a good teammate, be a good sportsman, okay? A lot of times you see a team that lost and they're high-fiving and they're looking off and it's barely a knuckle, that they're high-fiving. And, really try to think, this person gave me the opportunity to compete today, and that's a gift for which I should be grateful. Again, just briefly going back to my Peace Player days, we worked with Jewish kids and Arab kids whose families have been fighting for centuries, okay, and we got them to come together, and oftentimes playing on the same team, they were able to get along, and we made a real big point of how we high-fived post-game, the handshake line. So I think that's something we could look at. If those kids can do it, and we're talking about the Middle East conflict, then I think that kids in America should be able to do the same.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Now moving on to the stripes, everyone's favorite uniformed person in the game. Now, quick show of hands, okay? Who has ever had a call overturned in the game by arguing with the officials?
Mm-hmm.
Honestly. Anyone?
Well, it's been many, many years. I can actually think of at least one time where it did happen.
Now, Ruben, was the call overturned because you argued, or because the refs conferred and maybe there was a disagreement and went the other way? Do you think that your arguing actually caused the reversal?
Well, I brought so this involved a recent rule change, and this
Mm-hmm.
was actually I said I'm a Little League baseball, so this was in volleyball. I coached college volleyball before I became a Little League coach. So
Okay.
There was a recent rule change, and so the referee called a violation, and the recent rule change made the play legal. And so when it happened, I was young, and I probably didn't do it in as diplomatic a way as I should have. I immediately jumped and said, that's the wrong call, and he thought about it for a second, and he actually corrected.
Okay, well that's great. I mean, that shows you're very informed as a coach, and that ref probably should have brushed up on the rules a little bit better. So that's a good example, but just telling by the show of hands in the room, I think the point has gotten across. You don't really, and again, at Positive Coaching Alliance, as we discussed before, competition is a piece. We don't want to, turn you into losing coaches. You want to win. It is not in your benefit or your players' benefit to argue with the officials. But more importantly, it is not sending the right message of respect. These people are humans. They're going to make mistakes. You have to treat them with respect. Any disrespect, yelling at the refs from you or for your players is simply not to be tolerated. Okay?
Hey, but Danny,
Yeah.
I got to ask you about something. You said you're from Oakland, huh?
Yeah. Yeah.
You got a pretty good pro basketball team there in the Bay Area.
That's true.
You got an all-star by the name of Draymond Green who's got 14 technical fouls this year, and every time I watch this guy play, he's arguing with the officials, he's griping, he's very demonstrative, and he's a great player. He's on a championship team.
Right. Yeah, and he needs to control his emotions. Okay, because 2 more technicals and he's going to be suspended for a game. So there are, there's actual reasons, and then there's also the emotional toll that it takes on him and his teammates. Recently in the locker room, he had a big eruption, and it was talked about as sort of a chink in the armor of their great season. So I think you have to toe the line between being an emotional player and arguing with the rest. But that's a really great point. It's an emotional game. It's going to happen. You have to turn it inwards and say, how do I refocus and worry about the next play? But thank you for that, Ruben. I appreciate it.
Do you really appreciate it?
I do. I really do. No, it's a big deal. It really is. And Dove Nation. So, moving on. The next letter is T for teammates. Okay? And at PCA, we talk about what kind of commitment are you willing to make for your teammates? How do you show respect for your teammates? I always talk to my teams about being build-up players, okay, not breaking each other down, making build-up comments, saying good job, a pat on the shoulder, okay? And, does anyone out there ever hear teammates talking to each other in a nasty tone if a kid misses a shot or, doesn't catch the pass? You ever notice how a teammate may talk to each other, and do you address it? Okay. Does anyone have an example of how they may address a teammate talking down to another teammate?
I've used the phrase, "That's not the way we do things here."
Mm-hmm.
Seems to be very effective.
You beat me to my next slide, Kelly. Oh, maybe this is not your first workshop. Okay.
Just keeping it real. That's what I use. It works.
Okay. All right, great. Well, that's really great, and we're going to actually talk about that phrase later as we talk about culture. So just something to keep mindful of: how are teammates talking to each other? How are you coaching your players to be great, respectful teammates? And the last letter is S. Does anyone have well, forget the guessing. I'll tell you because we're getting a little tight on time. The last letter stands for self. So respect yourself. Okay, and what does that mean? Does anyone have a sense for what that might mean? Respecting yourself in the game?
Being a good role model?
Being a good role model, right, for yourself and to your coach and to other teammates, yeah. Anyone else?
Keeping up
Jeanne
your
said
values.
keeping, yeah.
Sorry, go ahead, Jeanne.
Keeping up your values.
Keeping true to your values, absolutely. Okay. And what PCA says is have a standard for yourself, okay, and doing the right thing even when others don't. So going back to that team, maybe they bring in a 14-year-old at the 13 and under tournament. That doesn't mean I'm pulling over Big Johnny, my ninth grader, to play in the game. I'm going to win based on the rules. We are going to do things based on our own standard and ourselves, okay? And that's really, really important. I think if you hold to that standard, everything else will sort of fall in line. So remember to respect yourself, okay? And moving on, we're going to talk briefly about culture, okay? And it's something that a lot of people talk about and few people have properly defined. PCA has done a great job of making a simple definition of culture, and actually Coach Kelly uses it with her teams. So Kelly, do you want to repeat what you said there?
I just say that's not the way we do things on this team. We don't talk to our teammates in a disrespectful way.
Right, right. That's exactly what PCA says. The culture is the way we do things here. So if you have a parent arguing with a ref, you go over and just let them know, I'm sorry, you can't do that here. That's not how we do things. Okay? Or a teammate is cursing at another teammate or talking down to her. That's not how we do things here. We talk positively to one another. Okay? So that's a very important piece, and I think if you just remember that definition, if you come away with that, and culture is sort of this vague term, if you just, rein in or hone in on that definition, the way we do things here, I think that'll be a really positive thing to bring back to your team. Okay? So if you could all just flip to page 46 in your book, okay? We'll see the Honoring the Game Toolkit, and real briefly, we just want to talk about a self-control routine, all right? So what's an example of a self-control routine? Does anyone have one that maybe you already use if you're losing your temper at that official?
Yeah, taking a deep breath.
Taking a deep breath, great. That's a perfect one, very important.
Sometimes I just take a drink of water, or I just kind of walk away for a minute and just turn around and,
Right.
get a little more focus.
Focus on something else. That's great. Okay. Yeah, maybe you take 10 seconds, you take those deep breaths. Maybe you talk to an assistant coach and, you complain to him or her and not turn and sort of be demonstrative towards the officials, okay? Because as a coach, again, you're a role model for what your team is going to do. If you start yelling at the refs, you're going to be in trouble. So that's something to keep in mind. So real quick, as we wrap up here, I just want to leave you with a quote from Jim Thompson. It relates to the Mallory moment you saw earlier. Jim Thompson is the founder of PCA again. So Jim Thompson says this: if you coach long enough, you'll find yourself with your own big Mallory moment opportunity, maybe even more than once. But for sure, coaching provides a never-ending sequence for smaller Mallory moment opportunities. My challenge to you is, by your actions, time and again in these moments, to elevate the game the way Mallory Holtman did. So I hope that had some great meaning for you, and again, I want to thank you guys all for coming out.
Thank you.
Yay.
All right. All right, Jeannie, what did you think?
Yeah, I really like how relaxed you come across. I loved all of your personal stories, especially when you bring it back, you're comparing it with the kids in the Middle East. I think it's really powerful. I was gonna remember some moments. There were like some moments when I thought, wow, I thought that it was gonna turn because of the interaction, and you really rolled with it, and you really had me with you, and the whole time I really believed that you were 100% behind everything for PCA, that you believed everything that you were saying, and you even come back to that and hit that. So I felt like I was with you because you're really there. So
Thank you.
great, thank you.
Thanks. All right,
Thank
Ruben,
you.
did you want to start, or would you like me to start?
I'll start. or I'll follow. I'll go second after Jeannie. So many good things, Dan, and all the things that Jeannie observed, I observed also. I thought the opening was strong. I think the Peace Players example gets people's attention.
Yeah.
It draws people in. I think you're mentioning that you were unsuccessful in trying out for the Wesleyan basketball team.
Yeah.
That stood out to me too. It stood out to me, and it got my attention. And I'm going to say that it endears you to your participants, that you're willing to share that with us.
Mm-hmm.
And I think, mentioning that you're a sports psychology student currently. So I thought that was a nice trifecta in your opening that made for a powerful opening. And I like the way that you came back to Peace Players with respect for opponents, because, golly, it was just a good example of. I just thought that was handled really well and powerfully. So obviously, when I tried to, Jeannie mentioned, I tried to throw you a couple of curves, and you really stayed poised and handled them well. The Draymond Green example, I thought you handled it really well. Another possible way to handle it is to, before you respond, is to say, interesting point, Coach. What do the rest of you think of that? Because likely what will happen there, Danny, is you're going to get other people to argue the other side for you, and you might leave it at that, or you might then add on, well, yeah, and the fact of the matter is, if he keeps it up, he's actually going to hurt his team. Like you said,
Right.
2 more and he's set. So anyway, occasionally turning it to the group is a nice technique.
I was going to say, can I just butt in real quick there,
yes,
Ruben?
of course.
One of the things that I've learned over the years of doing these workshops is that the idea between a presenter and a facilitator are 2 different things, which you know. But also, when you're a presenter or a lecturer or a clinician, you have to be the expert. And when you're facilitating, you're literally facilitating a discussion. So there have been multiple times at a workshop, someone will ask me a question, and I will say, wow, that is a great question. Someone start us off with an answer for that one. And it's twofold. Sometimes because I need to collect my thoughts, and other times when I'm not the expert on it, and I really just don't know how to answer that, because I'm trying to think, like, what would PCA say? What would I say? How would I handle that? So I think complete just transparency in some of those situations, it puts the crowd at ease, and you don't have the nervousness like, I have to give you the perfect right answer to that. And coaches will throw you off. I'm glad that Ruben did that, because I think sometimes they do. You get that challenging one in the front row, and you're like, oh boy, here it goes. And you did handle it really well. So I think that was good that he did that for you.
So speaking of challenging, when you asked, has anybody in your history of coaching ever had an official change of call when you refereed, when you argued? I think you asked that question expecting us all to say no. Is that right?
I figured there may be some. Okay. But also I thought, really look back on it. Was it your arguing that did it? Or like you said, it was a clarification on the rule.
Yeah. So anyway, good. So if you ask the question and you ask the question knowing that you might not get the answer you want, or for example, when I go through roots, I always ask, okay, this is about respect for 5 things, okay, represented by roots. What does the R stand for? I know that some people are going to give me the wrong answer. I know that. But I know that going in, so that when I get the wrong answer, I'm not thrown off. I can go, oh, you're on the right track. Whatever. So, and like you did when I said respect. You pulled it in. Anyway, I think when we ask a question, if we're expecting a certain answer, think about it ahead of time. What if I don't get that answer?
Right.
And you again, I thought you handled it well. In this case, you were aware that you might get someone saying yeah, because I thought Jeannie was ready to say the same thing. I thought Jeannie started when I said yeah. It actually happened to me. I don't know, Jeannie, am I reading you wrong? It sounded like you were. It looked to me like you were nodding your head and thinking about a time where an official did change their call. I may have that wrong.
Wasn't that in
But,
your story? Wasn't that in your bio, Jeannie, that you said that was a? Wasn't that you?
Well, on another team.
Right.
Yeah, it was it was my score that they flipped. Yeah.
Oh, that's right.
You came in second instead of first because they argued with the official.
Right.
Mhm.
Wow.
Yeah. Okay. So anyway, I think. Go ahead, Dan.
What I wanted to come back to and what I sort of left off is this sort of anecdotal sense that, maybe there have been instances like that, but it's very rare that you come to a call and you argue with the ref and the ref turns and says, you know what, you're really passionate about what you're saying. I agree with you. Going the other way, And
That's what I would say in the workshop.
Yeah.
I would do exactly what you just did in the workshop.
Right, exactly.
The exact same thing. I think that's hilarious. That's a great way to put it because that's your point. I would have done that exact same.
Yeah,
you said.
I had that. I left that out. That should be in there.
Yeah. The other part of it too. I mean, the point you want to get is that arguing with the ref isn't always going to happen. Isn't always going to end up in your favor. So, what are the downsides of arguing with the ref besides not getting the call in your favor? Well, now you've disrespected the official. Now the next time there's a 50-50 call, the official's like, you know what, I'm not going to help you. And this is something that has been backed up by referees, that calls that are argued, the opposite team's going to get the call in their direction. I mean, it's just human nature.
And the entire team is going to mimic you, and all of the parents and everyone in the stands is going to follow along.
Right.
So Danny, Kelly, and Jeannie are giving you some good ammunition there. So when you get someone like Ruben, who in 30 years, one time I got an official to make a call change by arguing. What's the collateral damage of the other 29 years and 364 days where you argued with officials? So I'll just finish with one thing, Kelly. Danny, I appreciate the way you executed the Jim Thompson quote. There's a reason we have our trainers read that quote, and there's a reason where we encourage them to read it and let it speak for them itself, and you executed it just perfectly.
Thank you.
It's funny because this is the third time I've seen you two, and I picked up more things from you today than I think I have in the past, and I really connected with a lot of it. I like to write down, I call them little nuggets, like things that I'm going to take with me when I leave, and I think the biggest thing that I think you have in your book of magic tricks here is the Peace Players International, because like the more I thought about that, and you were saying like you're literally teaching kids in just horrendous conflicted areas. You're teaching them to, I forget even how the exact words you use, but through sport, you're teaching them to conflict resolution basically.
Right.
So if you think about what you have experience with, and that is in like some of the most hostile areas in the world, and now you're in San Francisco. Like if I can do it in the Middle East, we can get some of that in San Francisco, where there's literally not shooting going on outside your door. So I think that really just hits home the value of the life lessons that you took the basketball court and made that a classroom for life. Right. And how about us here in America, where we don't have such awful, horrific conditions going on? Can you take the lessons you're learning on the court and transfer them to life? So I think that was I'm glad that you elaborated on that a little bit more, because I think that's such a great thing that you have. Again, I liked it too when you said, I didn't quite make the team, but now I'm coaching. And I think that's really cool too, because a lot of kids would take that, and say, oh, I'm a failure, I can't do it. And you didn't. And you looked at it. And I remember even the last time you did a hangout, you said like a coach asked you for your opinion on something or asked you like for your input, and that had a big impact. I remember that you said that, so I wouldn't take that out. That was something that stuck with me, that wow, a coach said one thing to you as a kid and you were like, wow, I am important, I am a part of this team. So I think that was cool. Didn't Katie Saylor go to Wesleyan too, Ruben, by the way? Isn't that where she went?
I think so.
Yeah, one of our staff members out in San Francisco, I think she went there as well. I think the Pat Ewing story was cool. I think it was cool the way, like, I just picture you as a 9-year-old kid watching him like sweat at the foul line, and I was waiting to hear what you were going to say, and you're like, that got me hooked. So I thought that was kind of I think that was a neat story too. And I do like the way that you came to PCA, and you came to it because it's what you believe in, but then also there was a great overlap. You used the word, there was a great overlap between, sports psychology, what I learned with Peace Players, what I remembered as a kid, and this was all in sync. So I thought that was just a really smooth intro. I really like that. One of the things that that I'm not a fan of, but I think you did it well, was the guessing game. The guessing game for what's it, I think that's really good. I've heard actually, Danielle Fagan is one of our newer trainers, and I observed her doing a workshop, and when that honoring the game slide came up, she said, let's just think of the game. We're going to honor the game. What is this game that we're playing? What parts are involved in this game? Who has, who's involved in this game? Let's take a look at the people involved. And then that's when she said, there's the rule. Or what are the components? I think that's the word she used. What are the components in the game, the word game? You've got the rules, you've got the officials, you've got the teammates. So she didn't really go into it, but then she said, all right, our challenge coaches, how do we teach respect for these areas when we know there's going to be problems with respecting? So it was kind of sort of the same thing that you did, because when she said, what are the components of the game? Some people said, well, parents are a big component. Yeah, they are. Officials are a big opponent. Players are a big opponent. So, she kind of hit all of those areas, and it was a cool way to guess it, just saying what's involved in the game. And then it was morally impactful because she said, okay, now you know what's involved. How do we teach respect for that? And it was like, wow. So I could, that you sort of reminded me that in your style that you did that. I thought that was good.
Thank you.
I'd like to see you elaborate. How do you teach Jewish and Arabic kids to do a high five? Like that's a teachable moment right there.
Right.
I think translating that also, how do you teach American kids to do a high five? I've seen, and that's a big thing for me. I taught my players, especially in lacrosse high fives were always like hitting stick to stick. And I taught my players last year, they were 5th and 6th graders. I said, stick comes out of your hand and you shake the hand and you look them in the eye. And we actually practiced in practice how to make hand contact and make eye contact and smile and say, great game, and tell them something specific that the opponent did well. Good hustle, great defense, nice shooting. And it was a teachable moment. So even though you had to do it over in the Middle East, I think bring it here, bring it home. Do you think there's any kids on your team that actually need to be taught how to give a respectful high five? You're going to get everybody to say, yeah, there are. Don't be afraid to teach it, because that's how you change a culture, because a lot of these kids aren't being taught these things. So, don't be afraid to take 5 minutes out of your practice and practice high fives. It makes a big difference in respecting opponents. So I thought that was good the way you said that too. And again, I think you're just getting better and better every time. And I'm excited to see you out in front of live people, to see what you do, both of you, to see what you do in a live person audience rather than sitting in your house. So Ruben and I are going to chat, and we will be we'll follow up with you guys, and we'll figure out how we can get you plugged into workshops. Luckily for you, you're both in an area where there are lots of workshops to choose from. So hopefully we'll be able to get you out sooner than later, and you'll be able to facilitate one of the principles or maybe more, and we'll get you going.
Kelly, before Danny and Jeannie leave, Jeannie, did you get out and observe another workshop recently, or is that coming up?
It's coming up.
Okay, all right, got it. Okay, thank you.
When is that one that you're going to see?
It's in about a week.
Is it a double goal coach workshop?
Yes.
Okay. And if you're available,
Peter Wood.
Yeah.
Peter Wood is who you're going to see.
Okay. So we might even recommend that you take one of the principals during his workshop, and you facilitate that part of the workshop for him. If you're available and you're there, Sonia's going to get in touch with you guys, and she'll send you a spreadsheet of when workshops are happening in your area. So you look at the availability and you say, yeah, I can do this one on Tuesday night, or I can do this one on Wednesday, and we'll try to plug you in.
Okay.
Okay, but congratulations, you guys both did a great job.
Jeannie, is the workshop with Peter Wood, it is double?
Yeah. Yeah, I made sure because I haven't been able to see a double goal yet. I've seen a couple of athlete workshops and kind of an altered coaching workshop.
A customized. Okay, great. Well, congratulations and thank you to both of you.
Thank you guys.
Thank you.
There was a lot of nervousness and there were moments of doubt for me, and coming through it now and the full process, it's been really great, and so I really appreciate you and this course. It's been really great.
Yeah.
Well, thank you.
I got a chance to see a lot of your comments, and it's really amazing to see how you pull out these nuggets, how each of you do it, and you know, you'd expect to hear the same things over and over again, but actually you really take the time to individualize it, and I see that and appreciate that too, so thank you so much.
You are very welcome.
Kelly, our emotional tanks should be full for a little while. That should last.
They are.
I appreciate being included, and I feel I contributed a little bit, but this course is all about Kelly Kratz. And
no, it's not all about
it's her vision. It's her vision. It's her design. It's her leadership. Yeah, and so Kelly, I want you to know how much I appreciate you also.
Well, thank you. Thank you. I like that we've been doing this for so long, Ruben. We can actually argue with each other while we're giving feedback in a good way.
We've gotten there, yeah.
Yeah, I just think sometimes when I get off of these, I'm like, do we confuse them more by giving them completely opposite feedback? But I guess you take out of it what you want, so it's good.
All right.
Thanks, Dan.
We'll be in touch. Thank you.
Thanks, folks.